Well, joining us tonight, Naymik. He is columnist for the Cleveland Plain Dealer and Cleveland.com. And David Bossie, president of Citizens United. David, a leading conservative. And great to have you both with us. Mark, let me ask you, there in Cleveland, I thought, frankly, Governor Kasich, he did quite a job. What were your impressions?
Look, he's played it smart from the beginning, getting in late in this race, just in time to get himself in. He's the new guy. He introduced himself, made the point twice about his father being a mailman. That's an issue, obviously, we've heard a lot about in Ohio. And he needed to hammer a few points about the budget in Ohio and the job growth here. And, of course, there are arguments that could be made that Ohio still drags. I think he did well. That was all he was shooting for, and he played it fine. I think he's going to be happy with his performance. We saw, his campaign tweeting out that this was a success. Well,
when a campaign thinks their candidate has done well, I always
that tells you everything.
Comforting.
Yes.
David, who do you think did best in tonight's debate?
You know, there was a lot of interesting lines. I thought Ted Cruz did a really good job. I think Marco Rubio had a couple of interesting lines. Scott Walker probably had the line of the evening where he talked about the Russians knowing more about Hillary's emails than we do. So I think there was a lot of winners. Donald Trump, look, I think he held his own. I don't know what the scuttlebutt is yet, but I think he held his own. He's not somebody who has experience on a stage like that.
Forget the experience with in a debate. I don't know about you guys, but to me, it looked to me like he wasn't used to having a two-way conversation. He's more of a transmitter than a receiver. What do you think, Mark?
Well, Lou, we got a nice treat with the Chris Christie and Rand Paul exchange there. That was I think it kind of reinforced that Christie personality that some voters have found appealing, which is why he's in this race. I don't think anybody lost any ground. I think Trump comes closest to being Trump, but as you saw in your focus groups on Fox, people were turned off a little bit by the sort of strident approach and language he took, both with the hosts and with some of the candidates.
David, and I want to ask you first, and then Mark, you, how much trouble, how much of a problem is the fact he would not say he would support the Republican nominee no matter who?
Look, I think that is an issue that's big inside the Beltway. I think Republican primary voters want everyone to come together at the end of the day. But I think they're open to what Donald Trump, his message, and that is speaking truth to power. And I just think he's going to, over time, say that he's learning to respect these men, because that's what he was saying. I need to understand who's going to be the nominee. He's not a knee-jerk politician, and I think that's really what he was trying to tell the American people.
I think we would have been surprised if he had willingly
I think we would have said he was pandering. I think we would have said he was pandering maybe about it.
Will he play in Ohio, Mark?
No, I don't think he will. Having covered several presidential campaigns, gubernatorial and Senate campaigns in Ohio, Ohio is really diverse. It's often referred to as the Five Ohios. You have, folks in the foothills of Appalachia in southeastern Ohio that, you might see a sign that says "Vote the Bible." They're working class but conservative in the values. The northern part, a lot of Republicans here, but huge Democratic poll. He's not going to be a Reagan Democrat, which you find a little bit in Youngstown, Ohio, and shooting towards Toledo to the west.
How about Carly Fiorina, guys? Carly Fiorina, judged by social media, whether on Facebook or Twitter, and in search on Google, I mean, she took it away, it appears, in the early debate. David?
Oh, she was clearly the star of that first debate by the trends of what's going on social media and by the television coverage. She clearly showed her intellect, clearly just an articulate, intelligent, powerful woman who I really think is the big winner from the early debate. Right. No question about that.
Mark, does she play in Ohio?
People will have to get to know her. I think part of the appeal and this spike in interest in her that we saw as a result of the early debate is the fact that people don't know her, haven't seen her, and it was someone different and new. And that will mellow out over time. I think Ohio voters are going to need to know her more.
We're out of time, but I've got to ask you both, if you would, quickly. I said at the top of this broadcast that I think this was the most intelligent, substantive, compelling, even entertaining debate I've ever seen in my career. Weigh in on it, David, very quickly, if you will.
Go ahead.
Yeah, look, I was thinking you were going to ask who the winners and losers were. And I got to tell you, the losers were hard to pick because everybody did fairly well. And there was no clear loser. I think
Is it the best debate you've ever seen?
It may have been, yes, sir.
Not for me. I think entertaining-wise was fantastic, but it did lack the specifics and substance. And someone who's followed it, you were getting a lot of platitudes, cliches, and they need to dig deeper. If they're really going to connect with voters on job issues, as you saw in your own Fox poll, racial issues, there are things they've got to hammer.
But it's a marathon, not a sprint. So they have a long way to go.
And the marathon is underway, gentlemen. Thank you so much. David Bossie and Mark Naymik, thank you very much.